PPP Loan 2022 update, the PPP loan forgiveness, and up to $26,000 per employee alternative plus EIDL and up to 5 million plus funding tips is what I'm going to be sharing with you in this live. Welcome in. This is Michael from Viral Funding Solutions. And if you're watching me at this moment, please give me a hashtag live in the comments or a hashtag replay during that time interval. I'm very happy to be here with you, as well as I'm happy to see you have taken the time and energy to make it. Whether you're here on the live or on the replay, it shows your vested interest in not only getting educated, but taking that motion and also applying what you learn. And that's what I come out with on this channel. If you've been watching me for some time, I talk all about small business loans, cash out advances, building business credit, different opportunities online with the internet you can take advantage of as well, financially and so forth, to better your life and also in your business. Now, let me know where you are tuning in from. How is your day going? I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to be getting right into the PPP loan forgiveness, when you should be applying for that. And we're around that time now. It's been a couple of weeks or so, but you should be paying close attention to this. And if you have the PPP, you're going through forgiveness and you're looking for an alternative, please stick around with me till the very end, because I'm going to be showing you some things on the screen here. I'm going to be scrolling down soon. I'm going to be putting some examples for you as your business loan broker / agent who's helped out a lot of people get funding, from complete startups to non-startups to individuals who are doing millions upon billions per month, per year, less than 100,000, over 6 figures. Because at the end of the day, a lot of business owners, let me move this over so you can see this very quickly. A lot of business owners end up coming to me wanting to get business funding. They missed out on the PPP. They missed out on the EIDL. But what is the alternative? And what is another option for me? And then when individuals end up getting themselves into these interest rates, what is the benefit of it? If it's low, okay. But what if it's a medium to a higher rate? So I'm going to be getting into all that. Also in the description, you can view all of this that I'm going to leave for you right there. Now let's get right into this. Now, the PPP loan forgiveness. This is what a lot of people have questions about, and I'm going to get right into it. So borrowers can apply for the forgiveness if you're one of them. If you're not, this may still be helpful advice at some point in the future, up until the point at which your loan matures. Now, there's a misconception of when I got my loan, and this is the year I have to pay it. It's not correlated to that extent. So borrowers, yourself, if you have the PPP loan, can apply for forgiveness up until the point at which the loan will mature. Let me move this over. I think, yeah. Okay. So I have my documents that I put together. You can't see it so much so on the screen, but I'm going to be transitioning in a bit to a different one. So stick with me. So you also have 2 years. This is what it means. You have 2 years for the loans originated before June 5th of 2020, or 5 years for those issued after that date. Let me say that one more time. 2 years for loans originated before June 5th, 2020, or 5 years for those issued after the June 5th, 2020 calendar year, the date. While it's best for you to apply for forgiveness before that period ends, 10 months after the end of the covered period, the borrowers must also wait until they spend the loan proceeds. Move this over. Sorry, I have a lighting on my document, so there's like a little ring around it that doesn't allow it to show every little word that I typed and I put together. But I just removed it. It might have gotten a little bit dark here, so I do apologize for that. So before June 5th of 2020, or 5 years for those issued after the date. So while it is best for you to apply for forgiveness before the payment deferral period ends, that's 10 months after the end of the covered period that you have, borrowers, as yourself, also, you must wait until you spend all of your loan proceeds that you would want to be forgiven. And it has to be expendable. It has to be reasonable of what you're spending that PPP on to be qualified, of course. Notably, you who have received the loan funds before the PPP closed on May 31st, 2021, you are now outside of the coverage period and can apply for loan forgiveness. So very quick rundown of how you can, let me move this so you guys can see this a little bit better. There we go. So a very quick rundown of how you can apply for the loan forgiveness. Here is a couple of steps, and I'm going to just run through them really quickly. They can be more specific, but I'm also going to try to leave you more information of this down below. So depending on the lender you go through, and you can go through the SBA portal or directly to the lender you're working with to ask for this. Borrowers, as yourself, you must apply for loan forgiveness directly through the SBA or through your individual financial institution. However, the process and the requirements are similar regardless of the method you go through. You're going to want to follow these steps. So you're going to gather the necessary documents to complete your loan forgiveness application. And that will vary on several factors on each individual. So I'm not going to go into the specifics, but I'll try to leave more information down below on what you would need to do. Step 2, determine whether your lender is participating in direct forgiveness. Whether your lender participates in direct forgiveness determines how to apply for your loan forgiveness. You can start by searching for your lender in the SBA list of participating lenders to find out where to go ahead and apply. Number 3, you submit the forgiveness form and the documentation on top of that from the first step, everything that you put together under that. If your lender is participating in this direct forgiveness program, which you would have taken time to find out, or you already know this because you've been in communication with and you've been given supplemental information about that already, you can complete the forgiveness form through the SBA PPP Direct Forgiveness portal. Otherwise, you will need to follow your lender's instructions for also completing and submitting that SBA form. That is the 3508A, the 3508 SBA form 3508EZ and the SBA form 3508S, or the lender's equivalent to those forms. You can also submit necessary documentation as requested by the SBA or your bank or credit union. And then the last thing, like anything else, you're going to await a response. Depending on how you apply to the PPP loan forgiveness, listen to this next part. You may receive a response from the SBA or your lender, not always both, either or. Generally, though, you will receive notice from either party if your loan is under review and if a decision has been made. That's just part of the follow-up, not only with PPP, EIDL, and everything else for the most part. Your lender will ultimately notify you of how much of the loan is forgiven and where applicable, and the date of your first payment is due. So that all comes back to the deferment, the payment period, etc. PPP loan forgiveness terms. To qualify for it, you must have maintained your staffing and compensation levels during the period that's been covered by your loan. Right? So you'll have information on that already. The coverage period for loans made in 2020 is 24 weeks after the disbursement has been made. However, as a borrower, you may opt for an 8-week coverage period if your loan was funded before June 5th of 2020. See how that comes back to what we said in the beginning? Now let me come back up to my notes here to make sure I go over that one part again. So PPP borrowers, like I said in the beginning, this is when we're talking about how to apply or when to apply. PPP borrowers can apply for forgiveness up until the point at which your loan will mature. 2 years for loans originated before June 5th of 2020, or 5 years for those issued after that date. See how that comes back circle when we're talking about the forgiveness terms. So borrowers who received the first or second draw loan in 2021 can choose from an 8 to 24-week coverage period. A little bit more information, and we'll move into EIDL very quickly, not a huge segment there. And then we'll get into the up to 26,000 and then close up here. Loan forgiveness also requires that the proceeds of what you use these funds for to be covered eligible expenses during that covered period, with at least 60% of this spent on your payroll costs, right? That's the PPP loan. Expenses eligible for loan forgiveness under that original PPP it was only payroll and operating costs that were eligible for forgiveness. But within time, with coronavirus, the response to that, and the Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act that was passed, I don't want to say too long ago, but 2 years you can consider that to be, in December of 2020, expanded eligible expenditures. So how you were allowed to use these funds. These are the expenses that generally qualify for PPP loan forgiveness. You have payroll costs, including salaries, wages, and tips. Let me move this over. Again, I have a document that I put together over the time of going through PPP and so forth. But I'm going to transition into a separate tab here in a moment, so please stick with me. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section so I can go ahead and get back to you. No employees but me. Are you referring to the ERTC program? Because yes, I'll be getting into that in a moment. I don't want to get too sidetracked, but I've left information, a more complete video over an hour's worth. That will be the one you want to refer to. And what it'll do is it'll go about what it is, how it works, and I also give you an A to Z application walkthrough process. And I give you examples of if you were to click this, what would it then take you? And then if you were to click that button, where would it take you then after? So I'm walking you through the process of applying for the Employee Retention Tax Credit, or the ERC Employee Retention Credit Program. But again, that is down below. But let me continue on with the PPP, and then we'll transition here in about a minute or so. So you also have mortgage interest paid on property used for business purposes for mortgages signed before February 15th of 2020, business rent or lease payments for agreements signed before February 15th of 2020, business utilities, including electricity, gas, water, transportation, telephone, and internet access, operating expenses such as business software and supplier costs necessary for conducting your business, costs of repair for property damage or other uninsured losses incurred in 2020 and in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, worker protection expenses like personal protective equipment or property improvements to achieve COVID compliance during that time. See how it has been evolved because of COVID as a factor. So the documents, I'm not going to get into that so much, but you can see via full SBA form 35088S, which I more or less already covered in the beginning of it. You may need to provide some copies, such as third-party payroll reports or tax forms for the covered period, including payroll tax filings, state quarterly business and individual wage reporting, state unemployment insurance tax filings, bank account statements, payment receipts. Bank account statements very common, just to see, the transactions and deposited, credited, and debited, and seeing that you're truthful in what you're doing. Payments, receipts, canceled checks, or account statements evidencing contributing to the employer health and retirement accounts. And there may be a little bit more there, but now let me move this screen over here so I can show you more information. And well, let's do this first, and then I'll transition into the next tab. So a quick minute into the EIDL loans. I know a lot of people have been looking at getting one, an increase, request, loan modification, appeal, the second amount, up to $2 million. Let me say this. For one, it isn't open. The portal closed May 16th. It's the last day. You can download any documents. There may be an alternative way to get those types of documents. There is anything, I'll link you guys to down below in the description, perhaps a phone number. But you would want to email back if you've been doing that, or you have that email to the SBA EIDL, and there may be an alternative again that I'll try to link you to down below. But a lot of people have been spoon-fed the EIDL loan. I've said this over and over, and I'll continue to say it. The EIDL loan gave too many people the advantage over a disadvantage of getting it. Yes, we are already in a disadvantage. We've been impacted by COVID, and we really do need these COVID relief funds. I get that, but a lot of people, and when I say spoon-fed, I mean it's so easy to access when you're a qualified applicant. So many people came into the EIDL loan, and I'm not going to get into the numbers because I spoke about that in another video, and I'll have EIDL videos down below. You guys can go ahead and check out. But it isn't open for requesting another increase. People are in the queue getting processed and the funds being run out. So my question is always, what is your alternative? And I'm going to be getting into the ERC program in a moment. But a lot of us have been easily put into the COVID EIDL system, and we've been given this freedom that not necessarily is easily given because it is government backed. It's kind of like any other government funding program, or if you were put on food stamps, because I've been there. I know how hard it is to go on unemployment, not only one time, two times, three times around because of a company shutdown, company being bought out from another contracting company, being completely depleted out of there, or for my wrongdoing, or something that I didn't do purposely, but because the company saw it that way, you were easily expended. And hey, let's move in the next person and let's do the same thing to them. So you have to be very careful about, hey, yes, I received idle funds or I didn't, but you have to ask yourself, am I being spoon fed? Like, it's so easily accessible. This is why there was so much fraudulent activity with the PPP loans, because people stated that they had filled out a 941, or they stated they were hit for economically COVID impacted reasons, and then they were given more reasons to spend that PPP loan on, and then asking for forgiveness, that isn't allowed to be forgiven. That a lot of it is being checked on. And if you don't think it is, the IRS with these programs checking in with the SBA and everything correlated more intact with the ERC program, more in cases, that's what we're going to hear about in a second. But don't rely on only getting government funding. Everybody wants to get their loan forgiven, 30-month deferment. And it's not enough for people. People are heavily impacted. I get that. People have taken on too much debt, paying on too much credit cards, too many inquiries. Credit utilization is off the roof. When I get people as a business loan broker / agent, I've been doing this for a good amount of time. I also run my own businesses. I run multiple ones that are doing very well. And what I've seen across all boards, helping people of all backgrounds, of all industries, you can talk about unsecured, secured term loans, cash advances, merchant cash advances, hybrid cash advances, accounts receivables, unpaid invoices, invoice factoring is what you would call that. You're talking about personal / startup loans, equipment financing / leasing to own, 0% interest for 6 to 18 month credit card stacking programs. And you have a lot more asset-based SBA loans, employee retention tax credit. The list goes on and on. I haven't listed all of them, but I've worked with just about them all time and time again, and I see it every single day. If you've been impacted by COVID, I understand that. But it's another question of, do you qualify for not only the EIDL? Sure, a lot of people were given the EIDL freedom, like, hey, here it is, the SBA loan, come and get it. There are some qualifications, but it isn't as constrained. Now that the EIDL loan hasn't been available for people, what are you going to do? Are you in a position with cash flow going up, or you have insufficient cash flow? Perhaps it's insufficient. That's why you got the COVID EIDL loan. And perhaps you already have stable and upflowing cash flow and you still got an EIDL loan. Either way. But so many people are trying to disagree with how they're being handled. They don't really understand why they're being declined. So you have to take the time to understand that. And I'll try to leave you the video down below if it's not there already on the about 5+ reasons of why you've been declined. And people still come to me and email, try to call me, try to set up an appointment, try to help them out with all of this. But they don't take the time to watch this. They don't take the time to read the content. They want to know what they only want to know. And that only ends up spinning you in a cycle. It's not working. And I get it. You may have to shut down your business because you're in over $400,000 worth of debt. You can't get funding because the repayment is, and I got this the other day, and I won't say who it was from, but I've got it from multiple people. When you get an alternative, your revenue is low. I apologize too for my hair is kind of all over. I didn't do my hair. It is a little later in the morning here. It's 10:32 a.m. in Vancouver, Washington. I usually do, but my hair is getting a little longer, so I don't. But anyways, aside from that, obvious that I didn't have to point out. I just wanted to make sure I'm being considerate, that you shouldn't just say, hey, well, if I didn't get the EIDL loan, this is it. I need $400,000 to get out of debt. I need to make payroll. I need to make my bills. So I'm going to go over here and look for an alternative funding with these private lenders that I have recommended to you. but I don't recommend them to you in the sense that you should take it. I recommend, hey, there's an option here. Let's see if we can evaluate and analyze to see if this is the best solution or solutions for you. But after that, what has to make sense to you isn't only the interest. It doesn't have to be about the terms. It's about your repayment. At the end of the day, what is your repayment? That is the ultimate question, not only with the EIDL loans, the PPP loans, everything else that you're going through. What is my repayment? And about in 30 seconds, I'll segment into the ERC program and I'll let you guys go. So this is your wake-up call. This is time for you to say to yourself, okay, do I really need to use funds, or am I just in a situation where I'd like to have them as a reserve? Because if you're trying to get a lump sum of working capital for growth or expansion, or if it's for COVID relief, you've been impacted, but I have insufficient cash flow, you'll never make sense of taking those funds. You're already in an average daily bank balance of only having $100 per day. So what are you spending all this money on that you're getting? More of it is going out than is coming in. More of it is coming in, but it's not staying there long enough. So your average daily bank balance is too low. You're saying you're doing $50,000 a month, but you're only keeping $125 in your bank account, checking account, every other day. Then you're depositing in 3 days from there. And you're still keeping it. Now this time your average daily bank balance is below 100. Now, if it were higher, then we're talking about a different story, and perhaps we can qualify you for more funding. But now you're waking up to the realization that, oh my, this is not a PPP loan. This is not an EIDL loan. This is your reality. This is how they truly function. If you can't go to the bank communicates with the SBA. IRS, SBA, bank, everything is correlated in one. So when people come to me and they go, I just want to see what I can get approved for, if anything. I'm doing $5,000 a month. I just want $100,000. Is that too much to ask for? And I get it. You may not know how much you can qualify for, but that's what I'm here for. Not in an aggressive way ever. It's for me to just educate you and say, hey, you're doing $10,000 a month. You can only get up to 75% of your average monthly revenue or your lowest month. $100,000 isn't doable. But with the EIDL loan, that's the EIDL loan. That's a government-backed loan. That's COVID. You can still come get some from COVID relief. But if we're getting you a lump sum and you're already going to be cash flow negative, you're going to be putting yourself in hard debt that you can't even get out of for the next 8 months, for the next year, if you even qualified for that. And your repayment, you're looking at it and saying, well, that's the payment of a car payment per month. I'm paying that per week. Here is my answer to that. When people come to me and they say, hey, well, I'm paying $700 a week, or I'm paying $1,200 per week, or $400 per week. That could be towards a very nice car, a luxury car, or however much you look at it. But will that car appreciate in 5 years? Will it depreciate more in 10 years? My betting on it, as it has shown economically, economies of scale, everything, supply and demand. You guys should be well aware of this by now, that it'll depreciate. By how much? That's another question. Type of vehicle is another question. The marketplace, sure, you can try to find the right customer at the right price. But I'm willing to bet, and even trying to get your lease equity out, that's even different if you're leasing, completely financing it. But unlike a car, and we're not talking about homes too, appreciation, real estate market value that can go up or down depending on the market. But you have to look at your business. What is your return on your investment in about 2 months? What it'll look like in the first week, 3 months, 6 months. How about in a year's worth? And you ask yourself, what is the meaning of getting these funds? Not only for my business in that regard, but in myself personally, in my health, in my spirituality, in my mentality, physicality. How am I growing as an individual? Because if you're taking these funds and you're saying to yourself, I'm going to be hurting, then no, I would never say to go for it. Maybe we look at a line of credit if you qualified. If we found out you didn't, but you qualified for working capital or a lump sum or however you choose to use that, and you don't take it, well, we know why. I know why. And you wouldn't have been in that position to begin with. and found yourself saying, well, I can't pay $300 a day, or I can't pay $1,000 a week, and I can't do $3,000 a month or $4,000. Well, it's because the repayment is just too high over the benefit. Repayment, benefit, bar none. So I don't want to spend too much time on that subject. Now let me jump into the ERC program. I'm going to move screens here. I think I have it. 1 second. Okay, this is the ERC program, also known as the Employee Retention Credit or Employee Retention Tax Credit. And this is a refundable tax credit. It isn't a loan. You don't have to pay it back. You can use the funds as you choose. So it'll be well worth spending time seeing if you can be qualified for this. And again, I have a video that I'll link you to down below that'll cover all the details. I can't put it all in this video. That's the one you'll want to watch. It should be the first link you can click on. So there's a little video there you can watch, but there'll be my video. You'll go through by clicking the link below. It should take you there, or it might be this one. But you can watch me go over everything. I got information from more extensively through my CPAs, people that I'm connected with, people within the program, the specialists, what I do in my part of that to ensure that you're going through it properly and that you can go through it and getting the funds to find out what is your ultimate decision. So again, that'll be down below in the description. And please watch the video thoroughly. I get people who ask me, hey, what is this program? Or do I qualify? And I would ask you, have you even taken the time to read it or watch the content that I put out there for you? No. Well, what would you think is the next thing? I'm too busy. That's an excuse. I don't take I'm busy, I'm productive as an excuse. I'm busy, productive, running multiple things with multiple businesses, working with multiple clients, and I make the time. 10 minutes. Look, this is why I have a schedule, guys. I have a schedule I put together here, and I also have it on my computer with different CRMs and different softwares. But I would put here this morning, this has to be done by 10 a.m. If I'm not done by 10 a.m., I'm not putting myself under enough pressure. This here needs to be done by 10:30. No questions asked. If it goes over that time, I drop it. I move into the next thing if I can. If I can't, boom. This side of my project done with. I just wasted about, when I calculate how long this would take to get finished, about 15 minutes. 15 combined with this other 15 to 20 minutes. I just wasted 45 minutes on 3 big tasks because I did not stick to my time. Punctuality is everything, guys. And I know it could be a tough pill to swallow if you're like, man, this guy's just, he's being aggressive. I don't like him. No, I'm gonna go to somebody who gives me the teddy bears and they try to shake my hand and thank me and pat me on the back every single time they can. And I can do that. I enjoy helping you out. I enjoy getting to know you first and foremost. The business, that can come next or last. I care about taking care of you as a human being. But if you're not putting forth the time to understand and be educated outside of the PPP loans, EIDL loans, even the employee retention tax credit and more, what are your private lending options? If you didn't qualify, but if you did qualify, well, what can I then do to make sure I maybe do better and get a better rate in the terms? Perhaps you have to take it now and then you show that you can pay it back, and then you come back and get more. We can drop the rates, increase the terms, get you more funding, and more opens up. So there are a lot of ways, but it's about opening up and not shutting your doors. So over here, this is the employee retention tax credit again. And I'm going to be getting into some of the qualifications very briefly. But if those of you who have been asking me, is this program still available, which I covered in the other video? Yes, it is. You have 3 years from the date you filed your original 941 to claim the ERC for that quarter. So 941 forms towards payroll. This is a payroll tax credit in that regard. So on the same trajectory as the PPP loans, and we're kind of in the same topics, more or less. It's a bit different. It's a refundable tax credit in this sense, not the PPP, not a loan. So this doesn't have to be paid back. And what you can use it for, you'll have it, use it how you choose. So what does that mean when I say you have 3 years from the date you filed the original 941 to claim the ERC for that quarter. So when people ask me, am I eligible? If you're not, if you don't have employees, you're self-employed, non-W2, you're doing 1099, that does not work. You can be self-employed and have employees under you to qualify with W2 wages, but that's what it's based upon. So that alone, those 3 or 4 things right there could already disqualify you. So first quarter to which this applies, that's equal to quarter 2, 2020 of the 941 form. You filled in July of 2020. That's when you would have filled it out. It's the month after. So 3 years from then, you have to file 941X, excuse me, my voice there, huh? To claim your ERC by July. That's what happens when I go a little long into the video. Your ERC by July of 2023 to get the credit. And then each quarter after that, it goes further. So you have the 941 forms you originally would put out every quarter. If you've been through this, you know already. And then the 941X X to amend. So it's like a revision to those wages if anything had changed and more. So let me continue moving down this path. So you get up to $26,000 per employee. And this was overshadowed by the PPP program. It just wasn't, I don't want to say it wasn't as popular, but there were a lot of constraints to getting in it and the qualifications, but it has since then been readjusted. And especially because of COVID, it's been giving a lot more leeway. So up to $26,000 per employee you can get available for quarter 2020 and quarter 1 through quarter 3 of 2021, but not quarter 4. Qualify with decreased revenue or COVID event. You can also qualify if you have, let me move this, let me get the light adjustment. If you have had a supply chain issue or if you've endured that, it can also be to, aside from it being your gross receipts being down, full or partial shutdown, government mandates, anything that restricted your business from fully operating or partially operating. So no limit on funding. ERC is not a loan, as you can see there on the screen. ERC is a refundable tax credit, and there's a tax code there from the IRS we can look at, but I won't spend time on that. Again, the other video just below this will cover it all. The numbers speak for themselves. Over 1 billion credits have been recovered. Over 108,000 employees have been qualified. Over 6,000 businesses have been reached. And this is the most appropriate way to go with all 50 states being covered there. Dedicated to the ERC program is what we do. And instead of going to a CPA, let me move this over. Instead of going to your CPA, if you have one, the reason this is better because we have to calculate formulas in ways that your CPA couldn't. And the biggest reason of them all is that your CPA will look at decreased revenue as the primary factor. They may know about other things. Usually they won't. So they'll base it upon your decreased revenue within those quarters, 2020, 2021, and say, hey, are you eligible? In a lot of cases, people get shut down. They're told, and they come to me saying that their CPA told them they weren't. And I asked them more about why that is. Well, because they looked at my decreased revenue, and then they said, this is what I was down on, sales. And so I couldn't proceed because of the quarters 2 and quarter 3, especially quarter 4 in this regard of 2020. So for that reason, I did not. But that's not completely true. It can be complex amending those 941 forms to the IRS for them to take care of it for you, for them to calculate how much you can get on depending on those wages paying out, and you were keeping these employees and how many of them you were able to keep and being able to pay on payroll. So it's very important that you speak to an ERC specialist, that you go through somebody like myself as your broker/agent who's helped out a lot of individuals. And again, if you're wondering about the application process, that'll be down below. But again, another reason here, like I mentioned, full or partial shutdown or suspension, another word, of business operations. Gross receipts reduction is another one there, and that can be towards decreased revenue. Excuse me. And there are a lot of testimonials where clients are saying, yay, ERC worked with us at Northtown Auto Liquidators and did a great job. Rita, I was very satisfied with the service and professionalism of ERC specialist. Kevin, it is my pleasure to share with you my great experience I had being a customer of ERC. The cleaning authority, after spending counted hours trying to figure out employee retention credits, like this goes even further, and I've even seen that. They were very thankful that they weren't getting spun around time and time again because they try to figure this out with their CPA. They try to figure this out online by themselves. They try to watch other content. They were being misled. And so when they were finally given the right path to go down, they were able to connect with people who were like-minded, accountants, people who know this. I myself has gone through it, being able to help you fully do it the right way. So I do want to end it on a few notes. I'm going to transition away from the ERC on your screen. Oh, let me cancel that. And move over here to this questionnaire form. So I have a questionnaire form here. If this is the first time you're watching me on this channel, where you can complete it and get a personalized and customized email response for your best funding option and options, plus a free 6-step pre-approval lending checklist to get you approved for funding much faster. And this is without wasting time and energy, the hassle of going through it all, without wasting days, weeks, months, and even years of you having to sift through old, outdated, fluffy theory, scammy type of information, whatever is not current, up to date in the market. This isn't that. This is legitimate, and it will really much help you go through and understanding what you need to have before you walk into that application of any type. Do you have your bank statements correctly put together? What are the 6 steps? Because if you don't pay attention, this is going to fall. Like if I'm educating you, I'm even speaking to you one-on-one, I'm asking you about how many times you're depositing into your business checking account. If it's infrequent, I'll give you a reason why you can't get approved. There are a lot of reasons. So you can literally get this done in less than 30 seconds if you have everything in there, and it'll look like this more or less. Page may be different. I offer more services. This is just a handful that I put on the screen. There may be a different page you'll get over time as it gets updated, but that's where you can get started and get help, excuse me, in understanding what are my options, what is the best one. If I didn't qualify, what could I qualify for in time? And I'll show you all of that. This will be your biggest wake-up call. And a lot of you guys go, well, I started an application and I was given an offer. I can't take it. Well, if you came through my sequence, a lot of the times you're educated, and a lot of it, hey, I can lead you to the water. Like they say, you can lead a horse to drink the water, but will the horse drink it? That's another question. And I don't say that to put anybody down or anything. That's just what is said. And it is true. Like with my content, a lot of the times when you fill out that questionnaire form, you can get started right away. You can go through the thank you page, select an option. There's accounts receivable financing options. There's asset-based other forms. There is unsecured term loans, secured term loans, cash advances, merchant cash advances. And that's what a lot of people mostly qualify for. And you're thinking to yourself, well, I wanted a year's worth. I didn't want 6 months. Well, the EIDL loan gave me 30 years. The PPP loan gave me this. That's what I want. Is there something where I can get that? Well, if you don't have strong enough funding details, like it's absolutely not. But that's not to say you will never. You just have to increase your fundability. That means credit, cash, as in monthly revenue, annual gross sales, lowest month, bank statements, average daily deposits, starting, ending bank balances, time in business, industry specific, background checks, final underwriting. Like it sounds exhausting, I know, but it really isn't. It's very streamlined, fast to go through. You're in and you're out. You want this or you don't. And I'll show you the benefits of why it makes sense to take that and why it doesn't make sense to take it, because it's each to their own. Somebody paying $400 per week, that's very minimal. That's outstanding. But if you're paying $500 and above, $1,000 per week, and you're complaining, but the EIDL loans, no, but the EIDL loans, this, don't pay attention to that. This is your reality. Not the EIDL loan, not being spoon-fed, not being cooked the dinner on a platter every single day, every single evening. You're brought Uber foods to your door. And again, I'm not saying this to be aggressive. If you feel it is that way, you're more than welcome to go watch another YouTuber or go read another post. But that's not what I do. Those who know me, the tonality comes up so you guys can get a better understanding of not only to be in motion, but how to take that action through inspiration as well. Because I've been in your position. I know how hard it is. And so without that in the picture, what are you getting here? Do you qualify for 1 to 2 years of a term loan? It's usually unsecured at that point. Well, if you do, what is my interest? It's 1 to 3% per month. Well, if I got 2% because of my industry specifics, bank statements, and everything, the risk we have to calculate. So you got 2% and you're only given a year. What is that? 12 months by 2%, 24%. And then that interest accrues more than if you were to be given something that's 8 months, 9 months, 10 months. Yet the repayment may be higher in a lot of cases, but you're not having debt for an extra 4 to 5 months, even if you qualified for it. That's another question. So you have to keep in mind, do I have collateral to back myself up or do I not? If I don't have collateral, what are my options? Can I qualify for a line of credit? Yes. Oh, no, I can't. So I can get a lump sum. Well, how do I prepare to use that lump sum? You shouldn't apply and say, then I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to be using these funds for, because I get people like that every single day. And for me, it's almost a complete waste of time. And I don't want to be in that position in a lot of cases. So I get we prepare for, if we get a line of credit, hey, I don't have to use them all at once. I don't have to really know what I'm going to use them for. I have time. Sure, but you shouldn't look at it like that. And if you get a lump sum, how am I using that capital? Because I got to pay it back in a year. I got to pay it back in 10 months. I got 9 months, 8 months to pay it back. Well, my return on my investment, where I'm paying back $27,000 on a $20,000 funding over 8 months, I'm going to be doubling and tripling my profits. So from 20,000, I'm going to be going to 40,000. And the next thing you know, I'm going to be going to 60,000. So paying back 27,000 on getting 60,000, how can you not make sense of that? You're just price shopping at that point. And that's even worse. At that point, if you're like doubling and tripling your profits, you got a new truck, boom, that's an extra 30,000. You went from 20 to 30,000, 50,000 already, paying back 27,000, or however you use those funds. But if you're just price shopping, you're putting yourself in a deficit already before you even have received anything. So don't put yourself and you lock yourself in and say, I just need to have a lower interest, because everything nowadays, the prime rates at the time of me making this, 4%. If you want accounts receivables, unpaid invoices, that can be the most attractive. That's what SBA primarily looks at. They look at accounts receivables first, and then they see anything else, because they can advance you based on your future receivables. They can advance you based on getting those unpaid invoices paid off through a factoring company that bridges them then working with that customer to then collect the rest, those receipts. So unless you have accounts receivables, unpaid invoices, invoice factoring, which I also made a video to, I'll try to link you to down below. No sufficient real estate, equipment, inventory, etc., or you do, just don't want to give it up. Well, this isn't also the wild, wild west. We can't be pleasing you on 30-year term loans with monthly repayments all the time at a low $1,000, below $1,000 a week. If I can get $100 a day payment or less than $100, that's not always the reality in every situation. Now, you may qualify for a lot. You may even qualify for a bank loan, online banking. No, you don't, or yes, you do, but you don't want to go that route for a lot of reasons that I know and I speak to you about. Well, here is the secured term loan option if you want to give up collateral in this sense. If not, unsecured. Is it an unsecured term loan? Is it an unsecured line of credit? Maybe it's an advance, which is actually a lot better in a lot of cases. Can we work on the ERC instead? Is it a grant program? If so, I'll leave those. I'll try to link you to down below in the description and so forth. So just to quickly recap, and we'll get going here. You got to understand the PPP loan forgiveness, when that is supposed to be done. And now is the time. And what part of those documentations you're going to need to be able to move forward. So again, with the PPP loan forgiveness, you have up until a point at which the loan matures. And again, that is 2 years for loans originated before June 5th, 2020, or 5 years for those issued after that date. We spoke about the EIDL. Forgiveness. I get it. You're in a tough situation. There's the deferment, but don't bank on getting EIDL loan forgiven. And it's a tough reality we have to face because a lot of us have to release employees. We have to partially or fully shut down again. We're not in operation anymore. We had to sell our business, which is a big thing a lot of business owners are doing right now, so they can get money from that. And I also spoke about what is an alternative to the EIDL. We went into the ERC program where you can get up to $26,000 per employee if you're an employer of those employees. That's how it would work. Not 1099, self-employed, independent gig workers. That won't work. So please watch that video. Again, I'm going to link you to. This is not even a half of what I speak about in that video. Everything you need to know, frequently asked questions, qualifications, the application process, it is all in there. Hi, babyface. No employees but me. Got you. Thank you for stating that. And I do welcome each and every one of you every time on these lives to comment. I will try to answer as I go. There are some times where I don't want to go off on a tangent, so I stick linearly, exponentially, and that's what it'll go into if you guys let me. And at the end of it, I'll take some time. I'm very appreciative and I'm very grateful that you guys take the time to do that. I know who comments. I know who shows up to these. Even if you don't get approved or you're not eligible, you want to stay up to date with today's market on every lending service, what the lenders, the underwriters are looking for on every program. There are things within the ERC program, within the specialists that I know that I have relationships with, that you won't know about what information is put out until you go through the applications, until you go and start. But it's about educating yourself at the end of the day. Usually I go live on Thursdays, but today's Wednesday. I don't know if I'll do it tomorrow. I may just send you guys this one out again tomorrow if you didn't watch this on the replay. And I was thinking about like the deja vu stuff, and like if you didn't watch it on the replay, but you may be watching it then, or you may not. It's kind of redundant, but take the time to watch it, replay it back. It should be already uploaded on the YouTube channel once I exit out of this. I'm trying to think about any kind of bonus tips that I haven't already mentioned, just so you guys can walk away with. If you don't get everything you want at once, so we're not speaking EIDL loans here, PPP loans, ERC. We're talking about private lending programs. You can even try to go through the non-private lenders like working capital through PayPal, Square, Shopify. I always want to say Spotify, but I may have one in the future. Shopify, and there are ones like Clearco, e-commerce related, and so forth. Yeah, you can go down that route, but have you built enough of a history with them for them to accept you is the question. And it's not like you always need that amount of history, but they'll ask for linking you to a PayPal account, linking you to another personal / business checking account to see those deposits, to see the revenue, because deposits and revenue are two different things all the time. And so if you don't have enough sales history within those platforms, you're already out of luck. And the acceptance to those, a minimum of 10,000, 15,000, sometimes less, it may not be in your wheelhouse, or it may be, but come to find out the fees may be higher. Come to find out that your daily payment was higher than as opposed to going to this private lender where you had better benefits, a better relationship you could have built. So there's that. And then there's the private lending. When you get funding, don't look at it as you're in a confinement. Like we already assessed before you started an application, I spoke to you, whether I just sent you an email and I asked you questions that you may not have responded back on that email, but you're asking yourself in your own head, man, this guy's telling me, what do I really need to use my funds for? Like I got to take time to think about it. Oh, I have an expansion project, but what really am I using that for? What would be my ROI in that short term or in the long term? Is there going to be any? Would it be beneficial, or Do I really need to do that? And then I go into it in even more depth. But if you don't get everything you want all at once, it's not the end of the world. It's not time for you to go shop. You won't tell me this. I get it. I know the psychology. I've been there, done that. Everything you guys are going through, I've been through. Like in terms of like business is one thing, but getting funding for your businesses or business in multiple different services. I kid you not. And the thing is, I see it every day. People shut down. They become Casper the Friendly Ghost. They become Homer in the bushes. They do that. They just, I don't actually think I need the funds. They shut down because they see how much they'll probably have to pay back. But what I then say to that is, why don't we drop it down? You had 40,000 approved for. Can we get you this other offer here where we get you started with half of that? Maybe we do 20K. You're paying back 27,000 as opposed from 40,000. You're paying 47,000, where your repayment would have been double the amount at 20K. So now we just half your payment over here. Instead of paying $325, perhaps we're paying $225 or so, give or take $200 plus. But from $375 to $200 plus payment, would that be beneficial to you? Well, and we never give you an offer that doesn't make sense to begin with. So it's not like we just give you something, we're going to hurt you with cash flow. The problem isn't the offer all the time. It's your lack of understanding and guidance that other people don't show you. And it's also because of the financial structure, your accounting side, the financial, administrative, there's the operations, and then there's the sales and the marketing. You're not in tune. I speak to so many people who just are the front end. They continue working in their business, so much so that they don't even understand what the heck is happening over here on business. And so they're quick to say, no, I don't want a $400 a day payment. You kidding me? And I'm going to be paying $1,200 back per week. Whoa, that's 2 car payments for a BMW. No, I don't want to do that. Okay, so you don't want your business to appreciate like businesses do if you're doing it correctly? Do you really care about your business? Do you care about just staying flat and comfortable? Are you ready for growth and expansion? Are you ready to scale? I know what it feels like being comfortable, everyone. I do. I remember so far back when I was working in my 9-to-5, I was working in a logistics company, and this company got bought out by another contracting company. Before all of that, working years in it, working my ASS off, like I didn't get the role that I wanted, so I had to work in a specific section. Some of you guys, you're getting ahead of bad. Well, what I was doing, I was working physically as well as mentally. So helping out with HP, was with a contracting company at that time. And I was going to get myself into the budgeting role, handling the budgets for shipping and receiving, everything coming in, everything going out, making sure we had adequate numbers, everything in the Excel. But before all of that, you guys didn't know what was happening. I had to work hard physically lifting boxes. Yes, the workload was very low because there wasn't a lot coming in and out at the time when I got started for months. And so that's kind of what kept me there also, is because to build more so I can get into that next position to see if a supervisor that was in front of me, he would have retired like he was supposed to, but never did. And so I was moving these heavy media boxes. I'm not kidding you. They were heavy. There were small ones, 24, 6-pack, moving them, putting it on the crates, not sweating hard. But that's who I was in my younger 20s. And before that position, I had worked in a manufacturing company in a construction role, logistics, other logistics, warehousing, just trying to see. And it wasn't like I had anything wrong myself. They just weren't the right fit. That's the thing. You have to explore when you're young enough. And if you put yourself in these positions, you fully understand the perspective, not only of who you become, but other people's positioning, general managers, employees, employers. I worked with CEOs in one of my latest roles, not the latest, but one of the logistics ones before. And he brought me into his office every single week, about 1 to 2 times per week, to discuss how to be better in operations. At that time, I had already built up enough of a side where I was learning digital marketing skills, because that's where I wanted to lead into. I didn't want to get another position where I might be terminated or I have to go work an extra 40 hours, I have to go show up for someone else. You guys know the pain of that. It's difficult. And it's not like you realize at the first second, you're like, yeah, I want to leave my state. There's nothing for me here. Sure, go explore. But what you really need to understand is you're running away from yourself. Not what I was doing in times I was, but at that position with the logistics role, having the lift, I'm forklift certified. So I was driving the forklift, the handheld one. You could just imagine me walking into the little warehouse spot, putting it in there, going back into my cubicle to sit down, nothing coming in, working on Excel spreadsheets, seeing some of the budgets, but not fully having control over all that. And then there was days that it ramped up and I had to work hard. I had to move things. And I'm not physically built to do these things. You should see my body structure. But this is what I have over everybody. I have the mindset. My mentality is strong. And it only built day in and day out. But if you don't have the fortitude up here to understand that, hey, you're just not supposed to, I get you're the creative. You're the person in front working all this. But there's more in the back. There's the operations. You also have the accounting and the financing on this equation. You have to see that. As a visionary, sure, but as an integrator, you also have to foresee all these different spots and be the leader of them. So it's not enough for you to say, well, I don't know because I work on this and I have my CPA having all this. And yes, at a time that's possible and they can report to you. I get that. But you also have to come over here and take initiative. Hey, John, I just applied for a loan, a cash advance with this broker or this agent. His name is Michael. He gave me all the information I needed. He said, though, with the offer I was presented, I'd have to pay back at least $300 a day, $1,200 or so a week, and $3,000 and above per month. Is that doable for me? It's as simple as doing that. And then that will help you. Hi, Gerardo. How are you doing? You are very welcome. I do. I'm happy you see that. I'm happy you got value out of the grants video. I wanted to spend time making sure that the information I put together was resourceful enough before I made that. It's not like I just said, hey, I'm going to just pop up in here and do it. I had to put a lot of stuff together and I had to make sure that it was done right. Good question. What made me change from an employee to an entrepreneur? Now, let me put this lighting up first. A lot of things. And some of you guys are like looking behind me before I answer that. Why is there a bed in this office? Having guests over, having people that I had to bring in to take care of, an uncle of mine. Stayed with myself. And then there's always people coming in and out. And I like to use it just to relax sometimes. But before all of this, I had a chair, had other desks, I had other things going on back there. So don't let that be a distraction. It could go back to that. But what made me change from being an employee to an entrepreneur, and this sounds kind of cliche, but working on my mind. I know how you're like, what? What does that mean? What made me change from an employee to business to entrepreneur, and there's levels, business, entrepreneur. What made me change is observation and soaking in everything from observing. And what do I mean by that? Everyday operations. Every day I'd show up. How it would look like from my morning to when I got back home and I slept. My last thought before I went to sleep. My dreams. What I would think about when I wake up. Just observing my thoughts. And a lot of us, we don't. We're just in reaction. We're like this. I got to go run my trucking company. I got to go get this contract. I got to get this. And you just think about it as a business to business. You never think about it as a relationship. So when I started to think differently, I started to really understand how good I had it as opposed to other individuals. Like, I won't name anybody, But when I started to see, the person jackhammering outside, the person who came back in a position where they weren't happy, they weren't satisfied, and I could relate to a specific degree, when I started seeing all of this and figuring out that there had to be an alternative way, the pressure building up with the company I was with that went down under, and just overall observing my thoughts and the relationships I have with those individual thoughts, that's where I think everybody needs to begin. Everybody will give you another answer and say, well, here's my story. When I fell down the stairs, I had a revelation. The TV just turned on automatically. The news, CNN. No. But in a way, I did have that. What made me go down this route was an actual friend of mine. Props to Tyson. Because he was running a trucking business, an operation. One day I was sitting at my cubicle at this logistics role, and you can only imagine being the third floor down in a dungeon looking area where the bottom is filled in brown concrete. There's cracks going left, right, down the middle, like it was going to just split in half. Little dots here and there. Right above me, what looked to be a dim lighting, but it wasn't. It was a big light hovering over me, kind of like what it would feel like in an interrogation room where you're just sitting there. Almost felt like somebody was on the other side of me, always looking into the cubicle as they walked by. And I walked over to the refrigerator where I had my lunch, my blue lunch box. You should have seen me carrying it. Or it was sometimes in my backpack because I was always bringing my backpack in. Took it out of the refrigerator, came back to my cubicle where nobody else was, my teammates at the time. One of them we were working in conjunction. I sat down, opened it up where I saw a sandwich that I had made the night before. Put the sandwich out, had a salad next to it, brought that out. I think they were the Lay's chips at the time. Yeah, they were the Lay's chips. I'm being very specific about this, guys. Not just making anything up. The Lay's chips were right there. And I took a few bites of the ham and cheese sandwich. It was nothing too much. Sometimes I would do ham and cheese, but more. And then I would have peanut butter and jelly. But I started eating it, a couple bites, set it down, had a couple of chips, had my phone out in front of me, the desk, the computer right there. And not a minute later, I received a message from Snapchat. You know those notifications, if you're familiar with, or any other app, you'll get one that comes down, or it'll appear in the middle. Somebody's typing, or sometimes oh, now you've been delivered a message. This is where then I go, Tyson. And so I open it up. Not a second later, I'm reading the message, and he's responding back to the meal I had for dinner last night, which was teriyaki. I went out to go get teriyaki. Any teriyaki lovers in here? Let me move this down. I'll get into that in a moment. But I started going, oh, okay. He was saying good things about the meal. And I was like, hey, how are you doing? I started catching up a little bit. And I've always been an upbeat, positive person, never looking at the negatives, optimistic, never pessimistic, half glass full, full glass. But, on the inside, I was hurting hard, very hard. You couldn't see it on the outside. And at times you could because of the stress that was accumulating there at work. It was not necessarily that I was showing it or showing it all. But I know a lot of you guys have run into that situation where you tense up. It's that kind of a day. You've had a day after day. You've had enough of it. And even in good, great positions, this happens a lot. It doesn't have to necessarily be low. And my position wasn't low by any means. It started there where I had to get my foot into the door. But I never got that position where I could fully take advantage of everything because of everything going down under, people not stepping down. And I was given more and more, but with the pay, no increase, none of this, I wasn't being as valued. But I took on more, but not compensated for what I deserved in a different role and so forth. So it became harder. Got more in, more business operations than that, but it just didn't. And so then me hurting in the inside, I had to respond back. And let me move this over. Okay. And then that's where I made a decision. Like he started talking to me about, hey, how's work going and everything? And I go, hey, it's going good, this and that. Kind of looking for an alternative, see if I can go back to school for another year. 3 years of school. Certifications off the roof. So do I go back and finish another year or half a year? Or do I find a better role suited for me? Because now I have this experience, I can go take it into the bank or do a certain role of that nature. I always loved chemistry. I thought I was going to become like a chemical engineer and so forth. Chemistry was like one of my favorite classes, by the way. And so I said, no, I don't want to go back into all of this. I'm going to find an alternative. So that's when I started figuring out about how passive income works. And my friend told me about this thing called digital marketing, affiliate marketing. And I did my research on affiliate marketing, got into the web like a lot of us will do, researched it, found out people, how they were creating websites. That's how I got into it. Started blogging a lot, brought up a back pain site, which I still run to this day, health site. And then I started, after that, grew over a long time, and not over a year, over time. At the same time, with all that, I was building the digital marketing agency as that was going. So I started getting clients in. I was understanding how to build websites for them, how to market them, how to position them in the marketplace, how to run Facebook, Google ads, Instagram, you name it, SEO, YouTube, how to design a concrete marketing / sales plan. And that's where I started to get into. And I was at the age, I think this was like 26, no, a little bit, 27, 26, 25, around 25, 26. So it's not like it was so long ago. And I'm 29 now. So about 25 or so, a little bit younger, maybe 25. So earlier than that, I was building like this resume that in a lot of these positions was good and some of it was not. So I was learning how all of this worked. And you don't build everything in a day. You don't build it in a week, not even in a year. So while I was working on all of this, I wasn't like earning. It only came after I had the foundations. And you guys understand this. The foundations need to be where they are, or need to be set. A lot of us, we buy a business that's not correlated to what we existingly do. Maybe you get disapproved for that. But a lot of times when we buy a business, we don't understand the foundation of that. Like, do you understand? Like, I have more appreciation ever. I would like not just want to buy a business and never look at the foundation because I wasn't given anything. I had to start from complete scratch like everybody else and had it harder in a lot of cases throughout the journey. And I'm still doing that, putting myself out there, challenging myself. It never ends. You're renting success. You never own it. So you're always evolving from where you were. Like if you were in high school, when I played Division I played Division I soccer. So high school, I had to transition to being a different player in the college level and then thereafter. So it wasn't like I had to stay here. What I was given there, I was going to be given there. You're constantly evolving. And so you're renting your success every single day. If you wake up every morning, you say, I own it. Sure, go out and own your success. But you truly never do own it as your own asset. If you can continuously think about renting your success, like thinking about you have rental properties, you're succeeding with this. But every single day you have to go out there. You got to find a new property. Got to see the market. And it's also becoming you, and it's something you enjoy to do. Or if you don't enjoy doing, you find little tasks in it that you do. So that's the mentality that I wake up with every single day is I don't own success. I'm renting it. It can be bought out. Somebody else can come in here and buy it away from me any single day. A competitor can come in, demolish me. So when you build something from the ground, that's when you truly come to the table. And that's when you truly say, hey, I know how this business is running. Not because I'm marketing it and I'm the operations guy, but hey, I understand my accounting. I understand what I have to budget, but until you know any of that, you're going to continue when it comes back to like loans or of any type. Businesses appreciate, they can appreciate over time. Assets within a business can't appreciate, it can depreciate. You got to look at the current landscape of that in the marketplace of your business. So that's kind of where I went in that position. And I was working in the company at the time before they had relieved 50 plus people, and I was one of them because the company got bought out. Position was gone out of the window. So it could be like that. Banks, anywhere you go, done, get out. Now you have a resume, you can go find another position possibly, but you're going to continue to do this? Try to get things out of your 401k. It's not enough these days. So that's where it all started coming for me. And hearing that conversation with a friend of mine that I hadn't even spoken into some time, but he responded to a Snapchat image of the food that I took of the teriyaki. I believe that was, yeah. And then having to think about it and go, this can't be true. So I went in and I started building these sites, and one of them I focused on more, and then I built another one. At the same time, I was understanding how to bring in clients. I've worked with so many, and then getting to understand how to help them best. Okay. So hopefully now you have a better understanding of myself. And then I evolved like digital, affiliate, e-com, and then when that's like, and then I went into other ways, other ventures. And then the brokering side, I really always wanted to get into that. So that's when I went full throttle on that. And I've put some of my businesses on the side with other people that can help manage that. But I also work in those as well. And so I like to take the time to do that. So hopefully now you guys have a better understanding of more or less where I'm coming from and why I preach this stuff every single day and why I'm passionate about it, because I want to care about you, but I don't want you to hurt when you take funding, when you find out that you ended up getting into a default because you didn't know how you were going to use the funding or you didn't use it correctly. So that'll conclude everything for myself. A little bit of a longer video than I intended, but I do appreciate your guys' time for being here, showing up. And if you have any questions, please refer to please leave me a comment, as well as you guys can look in the description. There will be the ERC program. You guys can see more of a video on, as well as the questionnaire form and everything else included. That is all for now. Take care. Bye.